Getting strong, let's break the mold. Chasing the stories yet untold. Passion ignites like a blazing fire. Knowledge takes us higher, higher. Out of the box where the wild ones play. We see the game in a whole new way. Living loud, hearts in motion. Sports with soul, pure devotion. The field's alive with endless dreams. We're more than stats, we're the in-between. A slam dunk thought.
Good morning, New York Mets Nation, and welcome to the Bat Cave. I'm your host, the BatFrie, Kenny Frie, and it is opening day. All right. After last year's debacle, thought opening day would never get here, especially this offseason. Highs and lows and ups and downs and twists and turns and all that nonsense. I just could not wait to get back to full-time baseball here, so we don't have to talk about projected this, projected that, who went where, who went, who didn't go anywhere, stuff like that. Just glad to, for baseball to be back. So before I kick off the show here, do a little bit of housekeeping. We got today's show is brought to you by Jason Fine, attorney Big Al. You can reach Big Al at 1-800-HURT-123. That's 1-800-HURT-123. Jason Fine specializes in motor vehicle accidents, slip and falls, workman's comp, and personal injury claims. He has 3 office locations conveniently located throughout Pennsylvania and New Jersey. His office in New Jersey is located in Cherry Hill on Greensward Lane. And the phone number there is 888. You know what? I can't even read it, so I'm not even going to try. I cannot see it. So that's Jason Fine. Just call 1-800-HURT-123. I don't know. I could not read it. I even got the spectacles on. For some reason, my screen on here is like super small. I don't know how to blow it up, so I'm not going to mess around with it. Get all crazy with it. So let's just kick the show off and be done with it here. So what a way to start her off, right? All right. I wish I could hit the old reset button, but we can't. We're live. That's just how it is. There's no editing. It's 100% live, and we're just going to keep on rolling with it. So, all right. What's different? So the 2026 New York Mets, I think the big story going into opening day here is out with the old guard and basically kind of in with the new a little bit. That's the big story. The old guard being, of course, Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo, Jeff McNeil, and Edwin Diaz. That's your old guard. And new guard, I'm like, I don't know if you want to call it new guard or not, because a lot of these guys are not on like huge long-term contracts. So it's kind of like not really a new guard, kind of just a temporary new guard kind of thing going on here. So rewind here. We have Nimmo in the offseason being traded. That was the first chip to fall. Traded to the Texas Rangers. It came to a shock. I think to most Mets fans, I know I was shocked. If you weren't shocked, then if you were expecting that to happen, good on you, kudos. But I was not expecting that to happen. And traded for Marcus Semien, and it's not even like it's an outfielder for an outfielder. It's kind of like an outfielder for an aging second baseman, but he still plays a really good second base. Offensively, he's on a decline. And I think a lot of it comes down to a money move for the Mets. At least that's what most experts have said, and that kind of makes sense when you look at it. And Nimmo, you know, not being the best defender out in the outfield, although for as many games as I watched, I always thought Nimmo looked decent in the outfield. I don't know. I don't know. Like, he wasn't some fantastic outfielder where there's a runner on third and he's not going to run home because you have Brandon Nimmo's awesome arm or whatever. He's not going to make the incredible plays. Occasionally makes a decent play here or there, but I think he was an average outfielder. So I don't know what's so bad about that. But the last couple seasons, you see more and more of the injuries creeping in. So I kind of get that. With the contract he was signed to, and and the money that was owed yet, it's almost a trade off between Brandon Nimmo and Marcus Simeon. So Marcus Simeon, I think it's almost the same kind of money owed to him as Brandon Nimmo, but I believe it's fewer years. I think that was the big thing there, was the fewer years, and yeah. So with Marcus Simeon coming in playing second base, the next big question was, well, what's going to happen with Jeff McNeil? Jeff McNeil played the majority of our second base last season. Does that mean that we're going to see Luis Angel Acuna at second base? Does that mean that Brett Beatty, who got a little bit of burn last year at second base, is that what's going to happen? Ronnie Mauricio, or potentially Jet Williams. His name was thrown in there a little bit because he had some time in the infield and some time in the outfield. So we weren't sure really what was going to happen next, but it almost felt like a certainty that Jeff McNeil was going to be the next chip to fall, but it wasn't. And I know myself, I think a lot of other Mets fans thought that the Mets were certainly going to re-sign Edwin Diaz. You had your two big free agents were Edwin Diaz, Pete Alonso, and I feel like it was split pretty even between Mets fans as to who was the more important free agent. I know myself personally, I thought Pete Alonso was the more important free agents for the Mets to re-sign, and the reason, obviously, I'm a big Pete Alonso fan, but for me, and I've talked about this so many different times on the show about how bullpen arms are so inconsistent year in and year out. Edwin Diaz was phenomenal last season, but you look at the season before, or no, I think he was hurt this season. No, he was hurt in 2023. Yeah, 2023. So 2024 was kind of but he coming off an injury. You kind of get that. The last season he was phenomenal, but the season before he got hurt, he was really good again. And the season before that, it's year in and year out. You're not sure what Diaz you're going to get. The Mets go out, sign Devin Williams, creates a potential rift between Diaz and the Mets. Kind of the reports were that Diaz was a little bit miffed that at least he wasn't consulted about Devin Williams coming in and what the plan was there. So he ends up signing with the Dodgers for some pretty decent money. And 3 years, $69 million, and never came back with the Mets for a counteroffer. So it seemed to me that Diaz was pretty well set and that he was not going to return, obviously. If he didn't come back with like, hey, this is what the Dodgers are offering, what do you got? And didn't bring it to the table, he didn't want to be here. That's how I look at it, right? So so Diaz, that was the chip to fall. So now just Pete Alonso. Obviously, you're going to sign Pete Alonso. Then he had an outstanding season last year. You've seen his power numbers drop off a little bit, but with runners in scoring position, he was pretty good last year. His batting average was up, pretty good from the previous couple seasons. So it seemed like Pete Alonso earned that contract, potentially from the Mets, but Diaz signs with the Dodgers. Alonso signs with the Orioles, without ever an offer from the Mets. And so, there were reports there that Pete felt disrespected from the previous season, and you can't really blame him if you ask me. You can't blame Pete Alonso for being disrespected from last season, the previous season, and I get it. It wasn't a great season for Pete Alonso. I mean, a lot of fans were already replacing Pete after the 2024 season with Mark Vientos. Vientos had that tremendous 2024 season, a tremendous 2024 postseason, and Pete had a really good 2024 postseason. We all remember that memorable home run in Milwaukee, and that'll go down in Mets history. That'll be forever replayed. Pete Alonso smashing that home run off Devin Williams, giving the Mets the lead in the what was it, the eighth inning, I believe it was, or ninth inning. So I think it was ninth inning, and I remember driving to work and freaking out and yelling and screaming because I was listening on the radio. Phenomenal. I'll never forget that. Awesome. And so Pete felt a little bit felt a little disrespected after that season, not getting a long term contract extension from the Mets. Uh, Again, he struggled that season, and yeah, that was on a prove it deal. 2024 was on a prove it deal for Pete as well. That was a 1 year deal that he signed the year before as a prove it deal, and it just didn't happen for him. He didn't. And I think I'm backwards on that. You'll have to forgive me. So 2024 was the last year of his contract, and then he got a prove it deal last season, and I felt like he proved it. He proved that he was worth the money, in my opinion. I think in a lot of other Mets fans' opinions, and the Mets didn't think so. The Mets figured that he's going to be on a sharp decline. A big man like that, and just the way his power numbers have fallen off the last few years. I think the Mets just felt like he's not worth 5 years, $150 million. So that was that. Pete's in Baltimore, 5 years, $155 million. Then Jeff McNeil's traded to the Oakland Athletics for a prospect, Jordan Rodriguez, pitcher, and that's it for Jeff McNeil. I mean, there not too many people were surprised that Jeff McNeil was traded. It was almost like the writing was on the wall. You knew he was going to be gone, especially with those other three guys being gone. It was kind of like the cleaning house. And so I think the one thing that bugged me a lot about these moves was and many other fans, we weren't really seeing any other moves going on. We weren't seeing how are you going to replace these guys? And then they sign Jorge Polanco, and we're like, all right, how does he fit in? How does Jorge Polanco fit in? Well, he's going to play first base. And Jorge Polanco has played one game in his whole career at first base. He does have some pretty good pop in his bat, but he's also getting long in the tooth as well. He's starting to age, and it just didn't for me personally, it didn't make sense to bring Jorge Polanco on and say he's going to be the first baseman. He's going to learn how to play first base, especially for a guy that never played first base. And one of the main reasons you got rid of Pete Alonso was because he was not very good at first base. He was a liability, which again, I thought he was a decent first baseman, not a Gold Glove by any stretch of the imagination. For some reason, the dude had a hard time throwing the ball. It's it's probably why he was playing first base. First basemen don't throw it all that often, but when you're in the major league, you are required to be able to throw the ball and throw the ball with some accuracy. Pete struggled with that at times, and but his picking, being able to pick the balls out of the dirt, just phenomenal. Top of the league every year in and year out. Saving runs and saving errors. Some of these throws that you'd see from Lindor, from Vientos or Beatty from that side of the diamond, just absolutely insanely bad throws that Pete saves. And that's one thing. Like you do hear other podcasters or other sports analysts talk about how good Pete is at picking the ball out of the dirt, but I never hear them say, well, Lindor, his accuracy on his throwing is off, or Beatty or Vientos. I mean, some of these throws were absolute trash. The last couple seasons were so bad. It was really fortunate that they had Pete over there. To be 100% honest with you, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Whoever they have playing first base this season, it's going to be interesting to see how they do with these throws. If these throws continue the way they have the past couple seasons, then you're going to see a lot more errors. You're going to see a lot more unearned runs, and that's going to be really unfortunate. And that's going to suck ass, basically. And that's what I should say. But anyway, the one thing that really pissed me off, as I'm starting to think about it more, I'm starting to kind of get in a groove here talking. It's been a while since I did the Bat Cave. Actually, probably last season. Yeah, had to be last. I didn't do any in the off season. I kind of took a break from it, and kind of hit that reset button. So I'm trying to get back in the flow here. I'm stumbling over my words, and have StreamYard all messed up here. I can't read the goddamn writing on here, so I don't know how I'm gonna be able to read the comments when I do get one. Let me see if this helps. I'm gonna hit this button, and that did help, I think, a little bit. But anyway, um, so yeah, so the one thing that really pissed me off was the thought, well, we didn't win anything with those guys, so it's time to move on. And I understand the Mets didn't win a World Series with these guys, so why keep running it back? Why keep running it back? A la the Phillies. The Phillies, they're continually running it back, running it back. They add a piece here or there, and but running it back with the same main group, main core. And they haven't won a World Series yet. They're gonna have a really good team this year. So who knows? This year could be their year. They could, but it's gonna run through LA. No matter who it is, you have to go through LA. But yeah, and so the oh, we didn't win anything with these guys, so why keep running it back thing? And they didn't win anything. They weren't winners anyway. So my thought is, what about David Stearns? What does David Stearns want as a GM? In Milwaukee, okay, he made them, year in and year out playoff contenders. A team that's in the playoffs year in and year out. Division winners. I put my glasses on here and to see how many rings David Stearns has on his finger. How many World Series rings. How many banners they must have raised in Milwaukee since he's a winner. He knows how to build a championship team, right? Let's go see those banners in Milwaukee then. There are none. There are no World Series banners in Milwaukee. So, I mean, the whole narrative that, well, they didn't win anything with those guys, so let's move on. What did David Stearns win, that made him so special there in Milwaukee? He didn't win anything. They didn't win the World Series. I don't think they made the World Series. So, I mean, the whole narrative, we didn't win them with them. Stearns didn't win with Milwaukee either. So, you're kind of throwing rocks there. Right? That kind of thing that just pissed me off pretty bad. That you're gonna throw stones at some guys that had some pretty good years with the Mets. They had some down years, they had some up years, and I get it. It's a business. I'm a Mets fan before anything. Baseball wise. I'm a Mets fan. I cheer for the logo, right? That's what I'm going for. I'm not the name on the back, the logo. And I'll always be that way. Any sport that I follow, it's always like that. I'm a Raiders fan, Mets fan, LA Kings fan. It always comes with what's on the front of the jersey, not the back. And that's how I roll. But when you're gonna start saying, "Well, we didn't win with these guys," what did this guy win? So what makes him the expert? Well, trust the process with Stearns. What's the process? Almost winning the World Series, because he does that pretty good, right? Almost making it to the World Series. You hear from in today's speak. I don't remember this much when I was a teenager or a kid. It's championship or bust. So yeah, okay. The Brewers got a couple division titles while Stearns was there. All right, big whoop then, I guess. If you're speaking in today's terms, when I was younger, that was pretty good. That was, you want the World Series, but it is something to be celebrated when you win a division title or what have you, or even if you win the pennant, you're the National League pennant or the American League pennant, you go to the World Series. That was something to be celebrated. Today's society, not so much for some reason. I don't know what that's about, but it's not my eyes. That's not a participation trophy kind of thing. It's not the same thing. Um, it sucks not winning it, but it's not all that terrible when you finish second. It's there's stuff to be celebrated for that. So I believe if you're not going to celebrate what those guys accomplished, Alonso, Nimmo, McNeil, Diaz, with their during their tenure with the Mets, you shouldn't celebrate what Stearns didn't win with his tenure in Milwaukee. Made them a perennial playoff team. All right, big whoop. Okay, who gives a shit? So that's kind of where I go with it. I feel like those guys should be celebrated for what they did in the Mets uniform, and I do believe David Stearns is a smart guy, and I do believe that he should get credit for Milwaukee being a viable contender year in and year out. But if you're gonna throw stones at one group, well then this guy's gonna get hit in the face too. Then that's just how I see it. So that was one thing that was bugging me this offseason a lot, and it kind of festered for a little while, and and whatnot. I got a couple comments here. Let's see if I can try to read it. See what happens. I got my old spectacles on, and actually the comments aren't too bad here. Pap checking in. Michael Pappernick says, "Yo, Ken, yo, Pap, what's up? Thanks for checking the show out." And we got somebody trying to hook up with me on Discord, and we're not gonna go there. That's all Twitch, and I don't even know what Discord. Discord, it scares me. I don't know what's on Discord. I don't know what goes on there. I'm not a fan. All right. So anyway, so I went out with the old Mets. Also gone with the Mets. I talked about Nimmo, Alonso, McNeil, Diaz. Also gone from the Mets. Starling Marte. He's been around for a couple seasons, and it's just so unfortunate with Starling Marte. Just the injuries, just kept seasons year in and year out, just not reliable. When he was healthy, he really got that lineup going. He really did when he was healthy, but it's just keeping him healthy just wasn't happening. Ryan Stanek gone. Ryan Helsley, and what a bummer that guy was. It's just too bad. And I do feel like if the Mets would have held on to him this year, I feel like he's going to have a good bounce back year. Again, that's my bullpen philosophy. It's most bullpen arms are so inconsistent. And then you do occasionally have a guy that throughout his whole career is a very, very good bullpen guy, whether it's a closer, setup man, or what have you. But I would say the majority of them, have one good year, one bad year, or one or two good years, then a bad year. It's so hard to really gauge the bullpen arms for consistency anyway. Cedric Mullins, another disappointment last year, kind of helped sink the ship from last season. Griffin Canning, he had some decent moments with the Mets. Max Kranick, I liked Max Kranick. I was kind of bummed the Mets didn't re-sign him. And Tyler Rogers, that was a big one. I thought the Mets would re-sign him, but he ends up signing somewhere else. I don't know where the hell he went. I'm not going to look it up either. But yeah, Tyler Rogers, the old submarine pitcher, the old submariner sidearm guy. I thought he pitched well for the Mets last season, but just either he didn't want to come back or the Mets just didn't match whatever offer he got, and that was that. And also a whole new coaching staff besides Mendez or Mendoza. I'm sorry, Mendoza. You got a whole new coaching staff. I'm not going to go through all the coaches. The big one that hurts was our first base coach. I believe that was John Gibbons. He did such a great job last season with the stealing and helping guys like Soto and Lindor being able to read the pitchers, and when they get a great lead. I mean, their Mets stealing last year was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So that's going to be missed. So we'll see how that carries over. Got my 7-line Army mug here. I got from the 7-line this past off season. That's a pretty cool little mug here. You got the apple. Looks like the apple says home run on there and all that. I don't know if you can see it or not. I'm down for that stuff. I like swag. So the new temporary guard came in. Marcus Simeon, second base. Should be decent there. I think we'll be good now. I think the middle of our infield is going to be solid. Lindor, I feel like Lindor had a rough season last year in the field, especially early on. You saw a bunch of errors pop up. Just fielding just lapses for some reason. Jorge Polanco. Again, I'm not sure what's going to happen here, and this is the other thing that really pisses me off. Again, I don't want to curse, but it angers me. And I'll get to it here in a second. But Jorge Polanco, first base / DH. Again, played one game in his career at first base. Yeah. Bo Bichette, that was a surprise signing. I'm surprised he signed with the Mets. I'm surprised the Mets went after him. But Bo Bichette had a tremendous couple of years with Toronto. He signs with the Mets, but basically a 1-year deal, 1-year opt-out deal kind of thing. So you expect him to have a monster season this year. He'll opt out, and he'll go for the big bucks next season after hopefully there's no lockout next year, but heading into the next season. Luis Robert Jr. And I always call him Luis Robert Jr. And I heard the last couple days people say Luis Robert, and I don't know if I can do that. I don't know. I might have to throw a little bit of French stank on it if I do it like that. Luis Robert. Oh, I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna stick with Luis Robert right now because I'm not used to it yet. I can't. It doesn't even sound right when I hear it. Luis Robert Jr. I don't know. Luis Robert Jr. Oui. I don't know. Freddie Peralta, another big signing this past offseason. Pitcher. He was traded for by the Mets from the Brewers. The Mets traded away a couple prospects, a couple big prospects. I was bummed to see both those guys go. Jet Williams and Brandon Sprout. So that was a bummer. I do believe, I think Jet Williams made. Oh shit! I think Jet Williams made the opening day roster. No, he did not make the opening day roster. That's right. It was Luis Robert Jr. The Mets traded for him from the White Sox, and Luis Angel Acuna. He made the roster for the White Sox. He had a tremendous spring. I think he hit like around 400 or something like that. So good for Luis Angel Acuna. I think that's one guy that most Mets fans thought would be traded away this offseason, just because there was nowhere really to put him where he got everyday burn. Because his bat was just not consistent, and it's hard to get a consistent bat when you're not playing every day. So it's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing. And so I believe he made the White Sox roster, opening day roster. I don't know if he'll be starting or where they're going to play him at. And also Truman Pauly was sent to the White Sox for Luis Robert. And so Freddie Peralta, Jet Williams, and Brandon Sprout. I think both of those guys will be starting in AAA. I could be wrong. I did look it up, but I can't remember now. I'm almost 100% certain Jet Williams will be starting in AAA. I'm pretty sure I read that. But Brandon Sprout, I'm not 100% sure if he's going to be in AAA or not, or if he made the big league roster. I want to say he's going to be in AAA, but again, not sure. That's also picked up Devin Williams, former Brewer, former Yankee. He struggled last season, the beginning of the season, but towards the end of the season, kind of really picked it up and looked much better. I looked almost like his old self. So we'll see what happens again. My bullpen philosophy, just no consistency. But he'll be replacing Edwin Diaz basically. So good luck with that. No more trumpets, which is good, and it's. I like the Timmy Trumpet song. I like when Diaz would come out the Timmy Trumpet song. But and if you ever watched the show before, I've ranted on this so many different times, and this will be the last time I rant on it. I couldn't stand it when Mr. and Mrs. Met, who is fine. I love Mrs. Met. She got it going on, man. Mr. Met. One of these days, I want to make it up there to to City Field, and I'm gonna be macking on Mrs. Met. So hopefully Mrs. Fry understands. If not, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. But yeah, Mrs. Met, she got it going on. But anyway, I couldn't stand it when Mr. and Mrs. Met would play their fake trumpets, and it just bugged the hell out of me. Going up to the air, to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right, playing the stupid fake trumpet. Oh, it drove me nuts. I don't know why. I don't know. It was good, wholesome fun. The kids loved it. The fans loved it. I hated it. I hated Mr. and Mrs. Met with the stupid little plastic trumpets, or maybe they're metal. I don't know what the hell they were made out of. Maybe they're paper mache. I don't know. But it drove me bananas every time Diaz came out. I enjoyed the song, and him coming out and the light show and all that stuff going on. It get you pumped up, get you excited, and they pan over to Mr. and Mrs. Met every damn time, and it's like, God bless it, don't show that. Drive me nuts. All right, the Mets also. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what. Yeah. Also in that Freddie Peralta deal, the Mets also were able to get Tobias Myers, which is a huge pickup there. Very good bullpen arm. Long relief. It could be a starter. So that's something to kind of look at there as well. Uh, so, yeah. So, and also Luke Weaver. He was a former Yankee setup guy, a very good bullpen arm. Uh, Again, he had his ups and downs last season as well, but it seemed like he kind of figured it out halfway through the season to the end of the season. So there's that. It was very good in the postseason for the Yanks. So that's the new temporary guard in my eyes. So spring training comes along, and I'm gonna 100% honest with you. I didn't see a whole lot of spring training because most of those games are played while I'm sleeping. If not most of them, if not all of them, are played while I'm sleeping during the week. I work night shift, and it feels like every day those games are starting at like noon or 1 p.m. And it's just not going to happen. Like today's game at 1:15 p.m., it's not going to happen. I'm either going to have to just watch highlights or read about it or listen to a replay about it. But I'm not going to be able to get up at 1:15 to watch baseball. So it's just not going to happen, especially after doing this show and whatnot, going to bed a little bit later than I normally do. But that's what sucks, because I love opening day. I love the pageantry of it all and whatnot. But it's not going to happen. But yeah, there's some guys this past this year's spring training that had some pretty good spring trainings. You have Carson Benj. He was one guy. A lot of people have high hopes that he was going to make the opening day roster, and he did. The spoiler alert, he did. Michael Talkman, he came out of nowhere. Unfortunately, he tears his meniscus. It seemed like he had a shot at making the opening day roster, but unfortunately, he did not. There was talk about Jonah Tong. What was he going to look like? And yeah, he didn't look bad, but he was sent back down to spring training, or down to AAA to kind of work on his other stuff. We all know he got a fastball and stuff like that. But it's work on those secondary pitches and getting them over for strikes and whatnot, and being able to control them a little bit better. And hopefully next time we see Jonah Tong, he'll have a little bit more of a seasoned repertoire, and yeah, not just be like a two-trick pony. So who else had a good spring training? Francisco Alvarez, he had a phenomenal spring training. It's just keep the guy healthy. That's the biggest thing here. We can keep Francisco Alvarez healthy. I believe it was, I saw a report sometime over the this past off season that Francisco Alvarez lost some weight. Took his off season training seriously and really like honed in on his body. To make it healthy, make it strong. And so we'll see how that translates into his game this season. He's somebody that we've as Mets fans have had high hopes for power wise, and we thought this guy was going to bring a lot of pop uh, to the lineup for the Mets since being called up. And basically is one season of it. One season where he hit 20 plus home runs. I think it was 25, maybe 22, 25, somewhere around there. And it just hasn't continued. And I feel like mostly that's a lot of injuries. Catching is a tough position to play, but a lot of those is not a lot. Some of those injuries just happened while he wasn't even catching. Tearing ligaments in his thumb while running bases. What the hell is that? Getting hit on the hand, broken hamate bone, stuff like that. Just swinging a bat, I think it was. So it's some tough breaks for Francisco Alvarez, um, and it's just it's a bummer. Um, who else? Who else had a good spring? Cripes, I can't think of who else it was. But yeah, so we had Nolan McLean pitching for Team USA in the World Baseball Classic. I thought he did well. Team USA had 2 losses, and unfortunately, Nolan McLean was the starting pitcher for those 2 games, but also no run support. It was almost like Jacob DeGrom 2.0. I think the first loss that the Team USA had with McLean pitching, I feel like maybe he got knocked around a little bit, like in the third inning or second or third inning. Like started off nice, and then kind of started getting knocked around a little bit. But again, no run support. I think that was that against Italy. I think that might have been the game where the Team USA's manager thought they were already into moving on to the next round and kind of just sat a bunch of guys, whatever. It all worked out. They make it to the final, but unfortunately they fall short. I think it was 2-1. I think was the final. Again, McLean, 2 runs. I think it was over 5 innings, 4 2/3, 5 innings, something like that. He was pitching pretty good, but no run support. And I think the only run scored was the Bryce Harper home run, I believe. I think it was 2-1, 2-1 or 3-2 or something like that. It was 1-run game, low scoring, but just a bit of a bummer for Team USA. But I would say not a bad spring for Nolan McLean. Coming off last season's emergence from AAA and looking very, very good, looking very dominant throughout his starts last season. And so, the Mets have high hopes for him. Kodai Senga, that's a guy that had a phenomenal spring. And there was a lot of talk if the Mets were going to keep Kodai Senga, if they were going to look to trade him, or what was going to happen. And Kodai expressed that he wanted to stay, he wanted to be a Met, and that he's figured out some issues that he was having, and he feels like he's going to be ready to go this season. And so far, in the spring for spring training, he looked very, very good. From highlights that I saw, from stat lines that I've read, from reports that I've heard, Senga looked really good, and I think that's going to be huge for the Mets. Kodai Senga has the stuff and has the endurance where he could be a Cy Young candidate. I mean, what was it, 2023? I think it was. Oh crap! I don't remember. It was 23. It was 23 or 2022, where he had a below 3 ERA and was just phenomenal for 3 quarters of the season. The first quarter of the season struggled. Different size ball, different rotation. He was used to having off every 6 days or whatever the hell it was, 6-man rotation kind of thing. And once the Mets kind of acquiesced to that, kind of got a 6-man rotation going where he was getting time off, the same time off that he was getting in Japan. He gets used to the ball, and he just looked phenomenal that season. I wish I remember it was 22 or 23, but he was awesome. But since then, not so much. And again, injuries. That seems to be a big reoccurring theme here for a lot of people. But injuries. That's a big part of your performance. If you're constantly injured, you're battling back, you're fighting back. When you do come back from an injury, you're never 100%. So of course that's going to affect how you perform, and that affects how you're viewed by the team, by fans, but potentially by yourself. I don't know. So hopefully Kodai Senga stays healthy this year, uh, and shows what he's capable of. What he can do. Even last season, he started off like the old Kodai Senga. He started off phenomenally last season, and he gets injured with that errant throw from Pete Alonso. He pulls his quad or whatever it was, or hamstring, well, whatever it was, and he wasn't the same after that. When he came back from that injury, I think it was, I don't know, a month or 2 months later, whatever it was, he wasn't the same. Who else had a good? Uh, just looking through the roster here because I can't remember the name because I'm terrible with that stuff. David Peterson spring was all right, not too bad. Sean Mania, he had a little bit of a rough spring, and it all comes down to velocity. He wasn't able to get out of the 80s basically with his velocity, and so he's now relegated to the bullpen. That's a little bit of a surprise. Uh, who else do we got here? Craig Kimbrell. I believe he was let go by the Mets. Somebody that they brought in, potentially as a veteran bullpen arm. He didn't do terrible, but I guess he didn't show enough where uh, the Mets felt like they would keep him on the roster. But there's always a chance that they could bring him back. If he's out there, he doesn't get signed. I don't know if he's signed or not. The Mets are keeping Richard Lovelady. I'll go over the full roster here in 1 second. As soon as I find Christian Scott, that's a goddamn name I was looking for. Christian, I'm sorry, Christian Scott. It was good. It was great to see him back from his Tommy John surgery and stuff like that. He'll start down in AAA, but in limited action that we saw him in, he looked decent. I think he pitched maybe 1 or 2 games, something like that. But I remember watching highlights of him, and he didn't look bad. So that's exciting because when he was pitching for the Mets when he was first called up 2 years ago, uh, you saw flashes of what he can be. And I feel like before he got hurt, his ERA was probably around 4 or so, which wasn't terrible, especially for a young guy, for a rookie. And it's exciting. It's exciting to see some good young pitchers like that. And we have some good young pitchers that are still in the system that we haven't really heard about that are on their way as well. So it's the Mets pitching staff. I think it can be very exciting over the next couple seasons. But we've seen that before. We've seen that before, and we've been let down before. So uh, so many different times. Just think, Jason Isringhausen and that group of pitchers there. I can't remember all their names, but Isringhausen was Isringhausen and Pulsifer and those guys. And then you had Matt Harvey and DeGrom and Syndergaard, Matt, uh, as well as oh, I can't think of his name now. Was traded to the Phillies. Uh, Oh, it was on the tip of my tongue there for a second, and I lost it. But anyway, Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler. You see those guys as well. Kind of what could have been, and then fizzles out. So and that's kind of where the Mets are at again. They have a core of like 5, 6 young pitchers that are either up in the majors or on the verge of being called up, and it could be exciting, or it could be just another one of those fizzle outs. The young guy. I will say that the young guys, Degrom, Harvey, Syndergaard, Matt, uh, Wheeler, went to a World Series. Unfortunately, the Mets lost that one, but still, at least they made it to the show. And I'll never forget that Matt Harvey game was the game that the Mets end up losing and clinching for can the Royals clinch the World Series then. But it was a phenomenal game. Harvey pitched, and just watching him, pleading, to stay in, and unfortunately, they let him in, and that was the rest is history. So All right, so before I get into the opening day roster here, we got a comment. We got Cowboy Dave checking in. What's going on, Dave? How you doing, buddy? I hope you're well. Hope softball's going well for Faith. Got a big game today for my daughter. Blue Mountain Eagles are playing against the North Schuylkill Spartans. I know a lot of you watching this are like, who the hell are you talking about? Uh, High school softball, it is what it is. It's that's my life now. And both teams 4-0, both teams phenomenal. Great, hitting teams. Solid pitching both sides. So it should be a fun game. We'll see what happens. Dave also says, "Hey, big man, is Brazoban the closer for the Mets?" Brazoban is not the closer for the Mets, but he did make the opening day roster. He's been pitching fantastic in the World Baseball Classic, limited time that he did see there, and also for the Mets in spring training, he pitched very well. So he made the opening day roster. There was kind of questions if he would start in the minors or if he'd be up, but he made the opening day roster. So talking about opening day roster here, I'm just going to go ahead and read it off here real quick as I have it saved to my cellular telephone. So catchers, you have Alvarez and Luis Torrens. Luis Torrens was phenomenal last season catching. Defensively catching was just awesome. Infielders, you have Lindor, Bo Bichette, Marcus Simeon, Jorge Polanco, Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos, and Jared Young. He and Richard Lovelady, Dickie Lovelady. Those guys, two guys, got the last two open spots on the roster. Again, it would have been interesting if Talkman wouldn't have tore his meniscus. If he would have made it, it seemed like he was on the fast track to make it. But Jared Young, he makes the opening day roster. Outfielders, you have Soto, Luis Robert, Luis Robert Jr., Carson Benj, and Tyrone Taylor. Those are your outfielders. Your rotation, the Mets are going with a five-man rotation. That was a big question if they would go six-man to kind of acquiesce Kodai Senga. They are not. They're going five-man rotation, at least to start. So you have Freddie Peralta. He's making your start today. David Peterson making your start game 2, which I think is is Saturday. I think they opening day today. I think they have a day off tomorrow, and then Saturday, Sunday. But I could be wrong about that. And then Noel McLean finishes off the series against the Pirates. Clay Holmes is your number 4. He had a very good spring as well. He had a good season last year for the Mets, his first year as a starter. And then Kodai Senga. Senga is the one I'm excited. I'm going to really pull for Senga this season. I think he's having a great year. Bullpen, we're looking at Brazoban. There you go, Dave. Brazoban. Huascar Brazoban. Luis Garcia. Richard Lovelady. Sean Manaea. Again, that's your long relief guy. Kind of surprising, but that's where we're at. Tobias Myers, who was thought to be your long guy, but now he's just kind of, the Mets have 2 long guys, I guess, after last season where the pitchers will only throw 4 or 5 innings. Most of the season last year, the Mets pitchers couldn't get to the 5th inning. So it's good to have a couple long guys here. Brooks Raleigh, has been fantastic for the Mets out of the bullpen. Then you have 2 newcomers, Luke Weaver as your setup man, and Devin Williams as your closer. So that's your 2026 New York Mets opening day roster. Cowboy Dave says, "Hey, big man, Faith has a big game today against a huge rival. They are Ridley. Interboro versus Ridley, always a huge game. Going to be a good one. Good luck, Dave. Good luck, Faith. Good luck to Interboro down there in the Philadelphia area. That's it. Our game today is also a bit of a rivalry. My niece plays for the other team. She's a senior, so good luck to her. And then, of course, like I said, my daughter, for Blue Mountain, sophomore season. So the Mets 2026 projected lineup. This is just a projection. I haven't seen anything official yet. Usually that comes out a couple hours before the start time. So the lineup might be out now, to be honest with you. If I looked on Twitter, I'd probably be able to find it, or X, or whatever the hell you want to call it. But so your bat leading off, it looks like it's going to be Lindor, which isn't a surprise. Batting second, Soto, playing left field. Not a surprise. That's what it was last season. Bo Bichette, batting third, playing third base. Now, the one that I found, projected opening day lineup, has Jorge Polanco batting fourth and playing first. I have seen some where it has him DHing, so we'll see what happens there. Batting fifth, Luis Robert Jr., playing center field. Batting sixth, Brett Beatty, phenomenal spring. They have him DHing again. I saw Polanco DHing on another projected lineup, and I seen Brett Beatty playing first base. Neither guy has really played first base before, so that is what it is. Batting seventh, Marcus Semien playing second. Batting eighth, the rookie, Carson Benj playing right field, so he gets a start. And batting ninth, Francisco Alvarez. I feel like we're going to see a flip-flop there with Benj and Alvarez. I won't be surprised if the actual roster or the actual lineup card comes out today and it has Alvarez batting eighth, seventh, maybe even seventh. And but I feel like Benj is going to be batting ninth. He is pretty good. He's a good runner. Has some speed. So it'd be nice to get him on base, in front of Lindor, in front of Soto, kind of turn that lineup over. And your starting pitcher today, Freddie Peralta. So good stuff there for the Pirates. It looks like they're projected to lineup again, just a projection. O'Neal Cruz, fantastic player, batting first, center field. Spencer Horwitz playing first base, batting second, batting third. Brian Reynolds playing left. Marcell Ozuna DHing, new to the Pirates there. Ryan O'Hearn batting fifth, right field. Brandon Lowe batting sixth, playing second base. Jared Triolo, shortstop, batting seventh. Batting eighth, Nick Gonzalez playing third. And batting ninth, catching Henry Davis. And pitching today, of course, Paul Skeens. So it's a tall task for this Mets lineup. It's a lineup that has potential to be very good. So that's exciting. But it remains to be seen. I mean, it's a bunch of new pieces. It's exciting when you get a bunch of new pieces like that because you don't know what to expect. So that makes it very exciting. It's a bummer to lose the guys that we lost. I will be rooting for those guys, except for when they play the Mets, of course. And Diaz, I'm not going to root for Diaz. Going to the Dodgers. I'm like, really, dude? Anywhere else except for Atlanta or even Philly. Anywhere else, cool, fine, no problem. But the Dodgers, like, really? I think I'd be more pissed if he would have went to Atlanta or Philly. But the next worst thing, the Dodgers, like, oh man, really, Edwin? But the rich get richer. I mean, kudos to the Dodgers. I have no problem with how they do it. So it is what it is. Got a comment here from Fu Quay Johnson. I think I said it right. Or is it fuck you Johnson? I think it's. I can't tell if that's an E or an A. But hey Kenny, it's our old boy. Here it is, Yuki Matsui checking in. What's up, Yuki? I'm back. It's been quite a few months. Like I said earlier on the show, I'm out of sorts here. It's been a while since I came on, did a live to talk Mets, and I'm stumbling over my words. I got the whole screen set up wrong here. I can't read nothing, even with my glasses on, and I don't want to put my face against the camera to read anything. So thanks for checking the show out, Yuki. And this is just a bump in the road, and I'll be live every week from now on until the end of the season. Unless on vacation or whatever. I don't do that anymore. I used to go on live during vacations, but it's hard getting good signal at hotels, and usually I get the side eye and stuff like that, and I don't want to piss anybody off. So Cowboy Dave says Skeens is a beast. He is. Skeens is a beast. You gotta give that lad props. I was really hoping we were gonna see Skeens and Nolan McLean. I thought that would have been a lot of fun. But uh, but yeah, it's good to see McLean just making the opening day roster, especially after he did last year. You expected him to, but you just never know. You never know what could happen. Uh, Dave sent me the same message twice. Yuki says, "Will Bo Bichette or Brett Beatty play more games at third base?" You know what, and I'm so torn about this, Yuki, because So here's the other thing that really, I'm going to go Peter Griffin on people here. This is the other thing that really grinds my gears with David Stearns, and it's good. I don't know if it's going to make sense. It makes sense to me. Why I'm angry about it? Why I'm PO'd about it, pissed off. The offseason, the thing was defensive runs saved. That's what how the Mets are going to move forward here. Defensive runs saved. Cut the fat. We're no good on defense. Nimmo, not a very good left fielder, not a very good outfielder. He's inconsistent. I thought he was okay. Whatever. Gone. All right. Pete Alonso, terrible first baseman. Can't play first base. Again, I thought he was decent. He average to just below average. Whatever. Gone because defensive runs saved. So how do we replace? Left field. We move Soto over again. Is another defensive liability. We move him to where Nimmo was. All right, fine. Soto says he's more comfortable in left field. We'll see what happens this year. Whatever. Again, I have no problem with how Soto plays the outfield. Whatever. It is what it is. But they're pushing the narrative. Defensive run saved. So now Jeff McNeil's gone. Your new Jeff McNeil is now Brett Beatty, who's learned a whole bunch of positions, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. No problem with that. And so he's your new Jeff McNeil. Brett Beatty is a very good third baseman, so we're going to take him away from third base. We're going to put Bo Bichette there, who's never played third base, and by all accounts, wasn't a great shortstop either. A good bit of errors there, a below average shortstop. But since he can play shortstop, he'll be all right at third base. That's the thought process that we're going through with that one. All right. That pisses me off. Jorge Polanco. He's an athletic guy. He's never played first base. Let's just put him at first base. How is that defensive? How's that going to save you runs through defense? A defensive run saved, all your analytics and your metrics. How is this better? How is that any better than what you had defensively? I just don't see how it is. I really don't see how it is. Luis Robert in center field, I feel like should be good. There's no reason to think that he won't be a solid center fielder. Carson Benj in right, there's no reason to think he won't be solid in right field. Simeon at second base. All right, I feel like that probably an upgrade there at second base. Of course, you have Lindor. He's solid every year. Again, I thought he had some issues, especially early in the season with some errors. But usually year in and year out, he's a very, very good shortstop. Former Gold Glover and all that good stuff. Same thing as Simeon. But first base, the big thing with Pete that everybody kind of, he's terrible at first base. And then you put a guy there that's never played first base. How is that better? How is that going to make you any better than if you just would have brought Pete back? I don't understand it. And again, I'm fine with the Mets getting rid of Pete Alonso. It is what it is. I'm a Mets fan. I root for the logo on the chest, not the name on the back. That's just how it is. That's how it should be for when you're a fan of a team. Things happen. Your best player moves on sometimes. Your superstar moves on. It is what it is. That's part of sports now. But saying that you let them go or you didn't offer him the money, one, because you think he's on a decline, but two, because defensively he wasn't good. And then you put a guy there that's never played there defensively. And then you're saying, well, Brett Beatty, he could play first base. And he's barely played first base in his career. And he's a better third baseman. It's just, it doesn't make sense. So if me personally, I think Bo Bichette probably plays more third base than Brett Beatty this year, just because I feel like Bo Bichette probably will be all right at third base eventually. I don't think in the beginning he will be. I feel like as the season goes on, he'll look comfortable at third base. One because he's young, two because he seems athletic, he looks athletic, and he can do it. But the one thing that has me kind of questioning is his arm. I seen a couple throws from the spring that were kind of iffy, but I seen a lot of throws that in the spring too that looked really good. So it's hard to tell. I feel like Brett Beatty's going to get more starts at first base. Brett Beatty will get more starts at first than he will at third, and I feel like that means that you're going to see a lot of Jorge Polanco as your DH. So I don't know if Brett Beatty will start more games than Jorge Polanco at first base, but I mean, as long as Brett Beatty's producing at the plate, there's no reason to think that Beatty shouldn't be in the lineup every day. So, and that leads you to the next issue. What do you do with Mark Vientos, right? Where's Mark Vientos? What are you doing with Mark Vientos? He was absolutely atrocious this spring. So I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. But I do believe Bo Bichette, to answer your question, without with after extending it like an extra 15 minutes, I think Bo Bichette will play more games at third than Brett Beatty. I think you're going to see a lot of Brett Beatty left or third base, first base. I think that's where you're going to see him mostly. Just switching back and forth, and I wouldn't be surprised if he plays more games at first base than he does at third base, and I don't expect him to DH at all. Be honest with you, Brett Beatty. With Luis Robert, I think he has a little bit of an injury history. I could be wrong with that. I would expect to see Carson Bench occasionally push over to center field, maybe seeing Brett Beatty in right field. And again, I don't think that makes you better defensively. So, it's you still have Tyrone Taylor on the roster for a reason. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see how they juggle this lineup with guys playing positions that they normally don't or never have. So it pisses me off that they've built a roster like that and claimed before the off season started that they're going defensive run saved, and then these signings, it doesn't make sense. To me, it doesn't make sense. I mean, maybe Jorge Polanco will be a great first baseman. I don't know. I don't think so, but what the hell do I know? Dave says, look for Alvy to have a solid season this year too. I think I think you mean Alvarez, but yeah, that's the one guy I think this year. I think we see a huge season out of Alvarez, and I think we see a huge season out of Beatty. I think those two guys will be I don't want to say surprises because it's something that Mets fans have been waiting on for a couple seasons. What was consistency from those two guys, and I feel like this season could be the season where we finally see that Alvarez, looks physically really really good. I thought I did hear that he did leave a game early, the second to last spring training game maybe or last spring training game with some back tightness, but that happens. It's a long spring, doing a lot of work, off to the side and stuff like that. Maybe it's sore back. Maybe hopefully it's nothing that's going to linger the season. It could railroad him, and if you see Alvarez struggle this year again with injuries and at the plate, I think you'd start hearing questions as to if Alvarez stays with the Mets, or the Mets, look to trade him or move on. I mean, he is a young guy yet. I think he's 24 or something like that. Maybe younger. I could be wrong with 24. He could be younger. So it's not like he's 29-year-old catcher and this is his last chance to prove he can do anything. There's still a lot of time with Francisco Alvarez. So I could be jumping the gun with that, but it seems like every year it's the same thing. Injury issue, injury issue, injury issue. So it seems like he might be injury prone. Hasn't really lived up to the hype thus far. But when he is hot, when he is hitting well, He is exciting. Francisco Alvarez is an exciting hitter, very exciting. Um, and then Beatty had a terrific season last year. Hopefully, that was him busting through finally, and we get to see the true Brett Beatty this season. So, pitching wise, I'm Kodai Senga. I think he's going to be our big surprise there. I'm super excited for Senga. I'm a Senga guy. I like the Ghost Fork. I like that whole gimmick, and I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see what Nolan McLean can do, and uh, and I've always been a David Peterson guy, so hopefully he's able to bounce back. And there was a lot of trade rumors with him, as he's now the longest tenured Met. I believe his first appearance was in appearance with the Mets might have been was it 2019 or it might have been 2020 COVID season. I could be wrong though. Um, Excited to see that. I'm also excited. Tobias Myers. I'm excited to see him a new Met arm there in the bullpen. I want to see if he's able to get any starts and see what he has. It seemed like he has some electric stuff in his uh, in his pocket there. So it's a lot of things to be excited about with the Mets, with the roster as it's constructed now. Just some things that were head scratchers to me, and yeah. So that's where I sit with that. Uh, just a little bit of a prediction I'm going to give. I watching the Soli squad there on Monday. I believe it was Monday. The days run together when you work nights. Uh, on Monday, they gave a prediction. They're Philadelphia guys, so they have some of the guys had I don't know, it was Diego. He had the Phillies winning 103 games or something like that. It's like holy crap. Uh, they're still a good team. The Phillies are a good team, even though they're running back most of the same guys there. Uh, I think it's going to come down to their pitching. I think their pitching is going to be very good for the Phillies. It's their lineup that's going to I think pose some questions as to how good they're really going to be. I think their batting, their hitting is going to either be their push forward or their downfall. That's how I view it for the Phillies. They have some big boppers there, some great hitters. Then they have another half of their lineup that's kind of unproven. But anyway, with the Mets, I see the Mets winning anywhere between 85 and 90 games. I feel like it's going to be closer to the 90. They're going to push for the NL East championship. I do believe. I think it's going to come down to the Phillies and Mets, and I believe one of those two teams will make the playoffs as a division winner, and the other team will be the wild card. So. But I like the Mets, winning between 85 and 90, and that's where I see the Phillies. I think it's going to be a tight race. The Braves are already dealing with some injury issues, and what I can't think of his name right now. The dude that got busted for steroids again, or illegal substances, or whatever the hell it is. Uh, that's very unfortunate for the Braves. But funny, I like it. F the Braves. Hate the Braves so much. Yes, there you go. Thank you, Yuki. Profar, Jerkson Profar. I gave him a lot of money. That's too bad. Too bad. And for the Phillies, you have Alvaroido. Yeah. What the hell's his Alvarado? Yeah. Alvarado's his real name. His real last name. Um, so yeah. Johan Rojas. Was he busted for steroids as well? Man. Kepler. Bunch of roid guys. Just make it legal. The hell with it. Baseball was more exciting when it was legal. I love baseball. I could watch a 1-0 game all day. That's just at least I could watch a 1-0 Mets game, whether they're on the winning side or the not winning side. I can't sit there and watch the Royals versus I don't know the Royals Angels 1-0. I can't watch that. I have to know the players. I have to be able to really be able to focus like that. If I don't know who the hell's hitting and who's in the bullpen or who's pitching, I just can't get into it then. But I used to love watching the Yankees and Red Sox back during the rivalry times before the Red Sox went ahead and ruined it and won a World Series. The curse of the Bambino. Those times were exciting. Whenever the Red Sox and Yankees would play each other, and especially late in the season when everything was close in the division, and Poppy and Jeter and all that good stuff, A-Rod and Manny, Pedro and Roger Clemens and all those guys. Those games were exciting. I could watch those games. Those games were exciting. All right, so I'm going to get the hell out of here. I'm just stumbling over my words. I apologize for the shit show. It'll get better. It will get better. Like I said, this is the first time I've been on in a while for the Batcave. Anyway, I've done a couple Raiders shows, the Silver and Black Lair. I'll be live tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. with the Silver and Black Lair talking Raiders football. So that's a little bit. I'm in the flow with that kind of doing that bi-weekly now until the season starts. So that's where we're at. Cowboy Dave, his prediction is the Mets 1, Braves 2, Phils 3. That's from a Phillies fan. Marlins 4 and Nats 5. Mets win the division. I do believe the Marlins will be 4 and Nats 5, but I think the Mets can win the division too. I think the Mets do win the division. I think the Phillies are right behind them. Like by a game, 2 games, whatever it be. It's going to be a tight race all the way to the end. I do believe the Braves are going to finish 3rd, but I think the Marlins are going to push them. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see the Marlins finish 3rd and the Braves 4th. And that would make me just so happy. So happy. And the Mets, hopefully they don't struggle with the Marlins and Nats this year. It seemed like the last couple of seasons they really struggled with the Marlins and the Nationals. Beat up on the teams that you should beat up on. That's you have to. All right, I'm getting the hell out of here before I say anything else stupid. Thank you for checking out the show. Like I said, next week will be better. I'm going to push for next Wednesday to get on, but I'll be on sometime during the week. Just hit that notification bell. It'll let you know when I go live, and that way you don't have to wonder, is he live Wednesday? Is he live Thursday? Is he live Tuesday? It kind of goes day by day how I feel. I'm very tired. All right, I'm done. I'm done talking. All right, see you guys later. Thank you very much for checking out the show. Check out of the Box Sports. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Follow, all that good stuff on Facebook. And OOT Box Sports on YouTube. Out of the Box Sports Entertainment on Facebook. I'm leaving. Good night. Goodbye. And let's go, Mets. I'm going to bed. See yous.
Strong, let's break the mold. Chasing the stories yet untold. Passion ignites like a blazing fire. Knowledge takes us higher, higher. Out of the box where the wild ones play. We see the game in a whole new way. Living loud, hearts in motion. Sports with soul, pure devotion. Alive with endless dreams. We're more than stats, we're the in-between. A slam dunk.